the parking lot after leaving her therapist's office. Police on the scene believed at the time that it was a robbery.
It was quite devastating to us. It really shocked the community, scared the community.
In a city that knows death and disaster, you can only be sure that today's bad news is going to be tomorrow's unbelievable headline. New Orleans is founded in 1718 by French colonists and becomes part of the United States in the Louisiana Purchase of 1803. It lies along the Mississippi River and is the most populated city in Louisiana. New Orleans' history of colonial rule brings numerous cultures and traditions into one space. Voodoo is synonymous with New Orleans, created by enslaved West Africans who merged their religious practices with local Catholicism. Nicknamed the Big Easy, New Orleans is known for a slower, simpler, and easygoing vibe. Thursday, August 31st, 2006. A sultry day in Metairie, Louisiana, a suburb right next door to the Big Easy. Mary Elizabeth Liz Marinello attends a regular counseling session.
She was visiting a therapist in Metairie, a well-traveled, well-populated area, just right outside of New Orleans, literally about 2 minutes from New Orleans.
She had sought counseling, and there was a counselor that she went to see at the Metairie Towers on Metairie Road. And on August 31st, 2006, she walked out of the building, and a scruffy man came up and fired 2 shots directly into her face. She is shot point blank, only steps from her car. Liz falls to the cement and lies in a pool of her own blood.
The scene of where Elizabeth was shot was in the parking lot of an office building. The gunshots alerted several people who came over. The police were called immediately. Everybody was there quite quickly.
Parish, number 1, I think it's Jade, may I help you? Ma'am, I'm on Metairie Road behind Metairie Towers in the parking lot. This lady's laying here. Bleeding from her head all over the place. Someone over there.
As they await
crime is way up, and to police, this looks like just another robbery gone wrong. But there's just one problem with that story.
There was nothing missing. There was nothing missing from her purse, nothing missing from her truck.
Investigators at the scene find 2 cartridge cases that belong to a .38 caliber firearm.
This could be a failed robbery attempt, or worse, an unmotivated attack of extreme violence. The ID in her wallet tells police her name, and that last name, Marinello, has a familiar ring to it. Mary Elizabeth Marinello, known as Liz, is a 45-year-old mother of a 10-year-old daughter and is recently divorced.
She was from Mississippi. She moved here. She met her first husband. She got divorced from him.
A healthcare professional, Liz is a vibrant woman who loves movies and attends plays.
She worked at Children's Hospital as a respiratory therapist, and all her patients had nothing but fantastic things to say about her.
Liz recently is in the public spotlight. 2 years earlier, she meets famous New Orleans sportscaster Vince Marinello.
They started dating in 2004, where they met at a charity event at a local bar and music venue, the Rock and Bowl.
The bowling alley and dance hall Zydeco music.
One night in January 2004, they were having some Elvis impersonators. And when Vince Marinello saw Liz from across the room, he was smitten. And he asked her to dance. And after that, I think it was the next day or 2 days later, he sent her flowers. Their courtship was kind of awkward because he was 66 years old and she was 41. And she recognized that age difference. When he sent her flowers on Valentine's Day of 2004 and asked her on a date, she decided she would go.
Even though Vince is over 20 years her senior and known for his toupee, he has a flamboyant style and an undeniable confidence. He dazzles her by telling her about his fortune, law degree, and even hints at fascinating connections, including television personalities, police, and even the mafia. A whirlwind courtship results in marriage only 6 months later, on October 23rd, 2004.
So Vince was a well-known, well-respected, and well-liked newscaster here in the New Orleans area. He had an emphasis on sports, was very knowledgeable, and really knew everyone in town, especially connected to the sports community.
And he gains even more public respect when disaster hits. August 29, 2005. Hurricane Katrina hits New Orleans. The hurricane's 19-foot storm surge breaches the city's levees. When New Orleans floods, Vince Marinello stays on the air, giving life-saving updates and reassuring residents as they call in, and giving words of comfort to the dislocated.
He actually got on the air and was broadcasting to people, kind of saved some people's lives while he did that.
He was one of the people that stayed behind and reported on the aftermath of Katrina and just the horrible effects on everything. And I think that took a toll on him, as it did everyone who remained in New Orleans at that time.
This May-December romance is a second chance for both Vince and Liz, and they're a dream couple, beloved by friends and admirers. And now that dream is crushed. Liz struggles for her life while a shooter is on the loose.
You know, overall, the community, I think, was initially shocked by this incident. Just a shooting that took place along a very nice stretch of suburban Metairie, sort of a well-to-do neighborhood where there's not a lot of crime.
It's hours later when police track down the victim's husband.
This was actually in Jackson, Mississippi, which is a couple of hours outside of New Orleans. He was with some friends watching the Saints game.
Police inform Vince Marinello that his wife is in hospital, fighting for her life. And then, investigators have a breakthrough.
The office building where Elizabeth was shot had surveillance cameras, where they captured the person they believe was the perpetrator on surveillance cameras, pacing around and doing like a lot of people, folding his arms.
The surveillance video shows a man fitting the description of a vagrant lurking in the parking lot 30 minutes before Liz arrives. Immediately before she leaves the building, though, the perpetrator moves to an area where Liz was shot.
Video and witness descriptions point police to a prime suspect, a man that has been spotted in the area that fits the description.
There was one individual who lived in a neighborhood near where Elizabeth was shot. He'd been panhandling in the building in which Elizabeth had visited, and he had gone to the church directly across the street and spoken to the church secretary about getting some handouts. We looked into the gentleman's background. He was a heroin addict who is currently at large.
Police must find this man fast. He's armed and could kill again.
Witnesses describe seeing a man putting a bicycle into the trunk of a white Ford Taurus.
Investigators search the vehicle and find a box of 9mm cartridges in the glove compartment.
If there's a reason to kill somebody, hurting your child might be one.
I'm Richard Karn, and I love my hose. My hose is lightweight. My hose will not kink. and my hose is anti-leak. It ain't those old hoses. This is my hose. The new Pocket Hose Copper Bullet, now infused with real copper, so your water is always clean and lead-free. Just turn on the water and watch your hose grow and grow to a full-size 3/4-inch hose. It stretches and expands like a rubber band. And when you turn off the water, away it goes, shrinking and squeezing that water out until it's practically bone dry. And that makes it easy to carry and put away. Our new inner tube uses 3 layers of high-strength latex on the inside. Then it's wrapped in a new polymer filament jacket, similar to the technology used in forest fire hoses because it's light and tough, 3 times stronger than the other hoses. It's guaranteed for 10 years, nearly impossible to tear or snag. And the redesigned connector protector helps stop leaks at the spigot. But my favorite part of our new hose build, the oversized, easy-to-grip fittings. Easy on and off, even with gloves. With more than 100 patents worldwide, it's the best pocket hose in the world. Get the super light 25-foot Pocket Hose Copper Bullet today for only $29.99. But wait, call now and get our copper spray nozzle with our exclusive thumb drive free. Simply use your thumb to turn off and on. And with 10 unique patterns, you'll have a setting for every job. It's a $30 value, yours free with every 50-foot copper bullet. But it's not available in stores. This is an exclusive release of our newest pocket hose. There is a strict limit of 3 per order, so don't wait. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-380-2741 or visit copperbullethose.com. So call 1-800-380-2741 or visit copperbullethose.com. Order now.
Watch this. It's all 100% real. Witness what happens to this woman's bags under her eyes in an actual time lapse in just minutes. Nothing has been doctored or tampered with. The very real problem will disappear before your eyes and hers with a revolutionary topical formulation that works in just minutes, and the effects will last for hours and hours. Over 1 million people are using this topical technique to visually reduce puffiness and bags. It works on sagging jowls, even fine lines and wrinkles on the face and forehead. Introducing Plexiderm. In just minutes, you can restore and beautify your face, even look years younger. And the look will last all day or all evening.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I'm just in love with the mirror right now.
Jump on board and say yes to this amazing $14.95 Prove It Plexiderm trial. You'll see why our customers describe Plexiderm with 3 words. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Order right now. We'll pay your shipping. Operators are standing by.
All right, time to do some selling. That's going towards rent. Oh yeah, that's going towards girls' night. And that's going towards a new bag.
Your closet is worth more than you realize. Download the Poshmark app and start cashing in today.
Trying on glasses using Warby Parker's virtual try-on is so lifelike, so realistic, that you might not even be able to tell what's real from what's virtual. Yep, it's that good. Virtually try on hundreds of styles in the Warby Parker app.
At DriveTime.com, we know you just want to shop for cars online without impacting your credit.
No, don't you dare hit my credit.
We won't hit your credit.
Oh, you can get approved, see your real terms, and customize your payments.
With no hit to your credit.
Yay, no credit hit. Shop for cars online with no credit hit at DriveTime.com.
They're called Shinesty hammock underwear. Soft, sweat-wicking, breathable underwear with a supportive pouch built in. You don't realize you need new underwear until you try these. Love your first pair or they're free. Upgrade to hammock underwear at Shinesty.com.
It wasn't always like this. Dryness made sex painful and awkward. But Reverie's vaginal moisturizer brought back the spark. Thousands of women have restored their vaginal moisture. Join them at Reverie.com.
Looking for a way to stretch the dollar? With Insurify, you can cut your car insurance bill in half. Scroll through dozens of prices and tap to switch online. That's it. No phone calls and no wasted time. Go to Insurify and save today.
Dogs are expensive. My number 1 pet parent hack, Spot Pet Insurance.
Spot made it so painless and easy for me. They reimbursed me $2,700.
I'm here to tell you, consider getting pet insurance.
The True Crime Network. Download the free app.
Marinello is known as half of a New Orleans celebrity couple, the recent wife of a famous and beloved sports newscaster. She's shot twice in the face by a disheveled gunman as she leaves a therapy session, and the suspect escapes on a bicycle. As Liz fights for her life, police match the description to a well-known area panhandler and go on the hunt for the suspected shooter. The man is wanted by police.
He had several open attachments for missing cord. Of importance is the fact that the perpetrator who shot Elizabeth rode away on a bicycle. This gentleman had several bicycles in his backyard.
Police converge on the suspect and arrest him. On Friday, September 1st, 2006, in the early hours after her attack, Mary Elizabeth Marinello succumbs to her injuries.
She passed away at the hospital around 2 o'clock in the morning.
The case is now one of cold-blooded murder. The suspect, who has been apprehended by police, is interrogated. Not only does he match the description of the perpetrator, he owns several bicycles, which are seized by police for forensic testing.
The police anxiously await the results, but after a thorough forensic examination learn that there is nothing to link the vagrant and his bicycles to the murder of Liz Marinello.
In the meantime, the widower, Vince Marinello, makes an appearance at police headquarters with his lawyer to make a statement about his whereabouts at the time of the murder.
For the record, could you state your full name, please? Vincent J. Marinello, and you agreed prior to this interview to come down and participate in an interview regarding the shooting death of your wife, Elizabeth Marinello. Is that correct? Ex-wife. Ex-wife. Okay. Aside from the terminology ex-wife, you will explain that. That's correct.
Interestingly, police learn it is very recently that Liz and Vince have become estranged.
Vince, when were you notified of Elizabeth's death? Last night, August the 31st, about 10:15, 10:20. At the time, were you aware that she was dead or just shot? I was not aware at all. After you received that information, what did you do? I think I was in shock. I don't know what I did. I guess if you want to describe me, I was in stunned disbelief.
Liz is no stranger to marital problems.
Elizabeth had been married before Vince, and she was in the middle of a very contentious custody battle with a minor child. He had accused Elizabeth of abusing the child, which is, if there's a reason to kill somebody, hurting your child might be one.
And there are more hints of abuse by Liz.
There was an incident where Marinello claimed that Liz attacked him and scratched him. There was a police report in the Harahan Police Department of abuse.
Police learn that because of alleged abuse by Liz against her daughter, her ex-husband files a petition to reopen custody matters. But Liz and her lawyers are no-shows.
Police turn their line of questioning back to Vince.
Do you have any idea who shot Elizabeth? No, I don't. Did you shoot her? No, I did. Do you own a firearm? Yes, I do. 9mm Smith & Wesson. I bought it at Elgin gun shop.
A 9mm would not match the .38 caliber shell casings found at the scene of the murder. Police want to hear from Liz's ex-husband. He claims that their divorce is amicable and believes the incidents of abuse Vince refers to are more inappropriate moments than dangerous behavior on Liz's part. Police want to know if Liz's ex-husband owns a gun. He states that he does not. Now that the vagrant has been discounted, investigators again review all possible clues.
Witnesses describe seeing a man putting a bicycle into the trunk of a white Ford Taurus, but police are unsure whether this incident is related to the shooting.
Investigators check on Vince's alibi for the time of the murder, and it turns out Vince has a standing date to watch sports with a friend.
He watched every game that was on TV. If he wasn't there in person, he was certainly watching on TV. He had some close friends in Mississippi. He went to stay with them. He was living in a trailer. He didn't really have a TV at home.
The time it would take Vince to drive to his friend's home would make him a very unlikely suspect. However, something isn't adding up.
Forensically, the sheriff's office was able to determine that Ms. Marinello was killed by a .38 caliber bullet, which is one of the most common guns that are used. There are a dime a dozen, especially here in the South and especially in Louisiana.
Detectives investigating the case went to the gun shop and retrieved a receipt for that 9mm handgun. An employee at the gun store revealed to investigators that Vince had come in with a .38 caliber 5-shot revolver.
He remembers the encounter clearly because he recognizes Vince as his favorite sports broadcaster from television.
The employee tells detectives that he had inspected and test fired that revolver that Vince had brought in.
The clerk shoots 5 rounds into a test tube, examines the cartridges, and informs Vince one of them has a dog bone fracture or a stress fracture. The clerk scrubs and oils the gun for Vince.
Vince had been to a gun store at some point in 2004, which is not a crime. We're here in Louisiana. Louisiana is an open carry state. Right to own guns and possess guns are ingrained in our state constitution.
But there is more to the exchange. Officers are surprised when the clerk hurries out to the parking lot to have a private word with them.
The employee asked the detectives, "Are you looking for some information on 158 grain nine-clad ammunition?" Police want to know why a gun shop clerk correctly guesses the type of ammunition that killed Liz Marinello.
This summer, we're in a race against time as temperatures rise. Abused and neglected animals across the country are suffering right now in the unbearable, scorching heat. They're thirsty and panting, chained outside with no water, and many are desperately trying to hang on for just one more day.
Extreme heat can have a major impact on animals, and we see that all the time. You know, without shade, to be without shelter, without adequate water, and basically just left out there dealing with the baking sun all day.
Will you come forward to help save an animal in distress today? Visit joinaspca.org. Call this toll-free number or scan the code on your screen to be counted for this life-saving appeal. Donate now, and with your gift of just $19 a month, you can help save an animal's life this summer. Go online, call, or scan now. It's just 63 cents a day. We will put your gift to work right away, rescuing animals who might not survive if we don't get to them soon. But the situation is urgent, and tomorrow could be too late for an animal who is suffering in the sweltering heat right now.
In my mind, one more hour is not acceptable. These animals have suffered enough.
This is no way for any animal to live, and it's heartbreaking to imagine what they are going through. They're desperately trying to hang on, but time is running out. Your support is the help they need right now. Don't wait.
These animals have been dealing with that environment and probably much worse for a long time.
So visit our website, call this number, or scan the code on your screen, and donate just $19 a month. Do it in the next 10 minutes, and we'll send you this free welcome kit, including our limited edition Animal Champion t-shirt.
We cannot put an end to this type of animal cruelty without the generous support of the ASPCA donors.
If there ever was a time, this is it. So if you sign up in the next 10 minutes, we'll send you this free welcome kit, including this beautiful t-shirt, for taking action right away to save an animal's life this summer.
These animals have suffered enough, and maybe you're going to be the reason why those animals will never have to suffer again.
We're in a race against time to reach vulnerable animals who are barely hanging on. Help rescue an animal today. Go online, call, or scan right now.
The issue of animal cruelty and animal suffering across this country is a enormous issue. It's easy sometimes to kind of disassociate with something that's not right in front of you. Our commercials are showing the footage, and it's often a softened version of what is actually occurring in these situations. We see dogs carrying chains heavier than their own body weight. And this is how this dog lives its entire life. Basically a circle. This is its whole existence. We have found dogs with no protection from the elements, to be without shelter, without adequate water. Sometimes they're just left to languish until they die.
And that's why we need your support more urgently than ever. So go online, call, or scan this code to save an animal who's suffering.
When I think about the suffering that I see, it's all terrible. It is so much more common than people think.
And so much worse. But today, you can take one simple action to save an animal's life. Just scan this code, or you can visit our website or call this toll-free number and sign up with your $19 monthly gift. You will save lives. That's our promise. Do it in the next 5 minutes, and we'll send you this exclusive t-shirt and welcome kit.
If you are there in person and you see what we're seeing and you hear the cries and the whimpering and you feel the fear, I think most people would be as outraged as I am.
Please hear their cries. Listen to your heart and help them. Go online, call, or scan now.
Coming up next on True Crime Network. Liz Marinello is shot point blank in the face by what appears to be a vagrant. Hours later, she succumbs to her injuries. Her recent marriage to famous New Orleans sportscaster Vince Marinello is going through a vicious annulment. When the prime suspect turns out to be a false lead, police dig deeper and get a big surprise from a staff member at a gun shop where Vince Marinello recently shops.
The employer revealed to investigators that Vince had purchased a box of 50 nylon-coated bullets. Vince had said he had wanted the best stuff available. These nylon-coated bullets, also known as KTW, were produced from 1960 to 1990. The bullet itself was either brass or steel. The coating on top of it was to protect the gun that it was being fired through from having the barrel eroded by the hard metal of the brass or the steel. It's not actually the nylon coating that allowed it to penetrate better, but it was actually the material that was used for the bullet portion. Because these bullets were very unique and they were found in the autopsy, then it gave investigators all the more reason to go and look further into where these bullets were purchased. Detectives, during their investigation, come to the realization that Elliott's gun store is the only store that sells that nylon-coated ammunition. If an individual has those nylon-coated bullets, and then there's nylon-coated fired bullets in an individual, well, naturally you would go ahead and be able to piece it together that it is possible that whoever purchased those nylon-coated bullets fired them into the victim.
The gun shop visit focuses authorities on a new prime suspect.
Hey, maybe we ought to start looking at the husband, because when you look sometimes at victimology, it's always somebody closest to the victim that commits the crime.
Elizabeth was visiting a therapist. One of the issues she was talking to the therapist about was her marital problems with Vince. They were not married for a long time, but they were having some difficulties. And I think that immediately makes detectives focus on a spouse.
And police find there is more to this famous sportscaster than the persona seen in the public eye.
Vince Marinello was raised in the 9th Ward, which has a specific dialect that they use. It's more like Brooklynese.
Marinello was Italian. At one point, the Italian community was quite prominent in the French Quarter.
And because he spoke with this type of dialect, it endeared him to the New Orleans people. He started every one of his programs with, "Hello, everybody." He was a pretty good sportscaster in his day. He was a character. He was character.
He's famous for many years, but as he ages, he's moved to radio to make way for young up-and-comers in television. This is a demotion for Vince. But in August 2005, New Orleans is ravaged by Hurricane Katrina, which floods more than 80% of the city.
Post-Katrina, he was still working at WWL Radio. I think it was the only radio station that was still open at the time. And they were handing out news. They were telling people where they could get food, how to apply for FEMA relief, generally what was going on in particular areas. And he did a great job doing that.
Vince never leaves his post during the disaster.
He was also an announcer at the fairgrounds for horse racing. He was familiar with New Orleans sports more than I think a lot of other announcers would be.
When Vince meets the much younger Liz, he is relentless in his pursuit of her.
When they first met and they started to fall in love, he told Liz, "Look, I got $3 million in bonds and they're getting ready to mature. And you know what? You don't have to work the rest of your life."
Liz is swept away.
They were married in October of 2004, but all the attention had to be on Marinello. He had a makeup artist that was at the wedding that was putting makeup on him. Every time it would crack or it would leak or something, he would have the makeup artist come up and put the makeup on him. He adored the woman, but it was more of an obsession than anything else.
The too hasty wedding sours rapidly.
Later on, there were notes found where he wrote notes to Liz, which were very abusive, like, you know, you didn't compliment me on my shirt, you didn't compliment me on how I look today, and things of that nature. Liz realized that she was living a lie with this man.
But things become irreparable when Liz discovers that when she and Vince get married, Vince is still married to his first wife, Andrea.
She discovered that he had not moved all of his stuff to her house, and he was still living with his wife, Andrea, who had filed a lawsuit against him because he got money fraudulently using her name somehow. That was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Louisiana, there's a procedure in which most divorces take place, in which the plaintiff obtains two judgments. A preliminary default judgment, which was obtained prior to Vince's marriage to Liz. But subsequent to that preliminary default judgment, a confirmation of that judgment has to take place, which makes the preliminary default judgment final. That had not taken place.
She filed for divorce with all the other lies that had been piled on top. She took a trip to New York, and she didn't tell him why she was going. She was actually going to meet Marinello's brother, Peter. And Peter told her, "Look, he doesn't have $3 million. The only money he gets is Social Security and the money from the radio station."
Even though Vince was successful here, he was not successful at keeping his money.
Marinello also had a penchant for telling tall tales. He said he had links with the mafia. He had a law degree. He never went to college, so he never had a law degree, but he told people that's what he did. She was wondering, had he ever told her the truth?
As police investigate Vince Marinello more deeply, something about his gestures strike a chord of recognition.
The office building where Elizabeth was shot had surveillance cameras, where they captured the person they believe was the perpetrator on the surveillance cameras. The person is unrecognizable. Nobody could look at that tape and say that's Vince Marinello. Or could they say it's anyone else in particular? It just looked like a homeless fellow pacing around and doing like a lot of people, folding his arms.
But it is just these movements that make police look twice.
The district attorney's office had obtained some other surveillance footage of Vince Marinello.
While he was waiting to make his statement, a video camera happened to catch him walking in his mannerisms.
He was walking around with his arms folded.
It was the mannerisms that he exhibited that kind of caught the police's attention, and they made the connection that he may have been in a disguise and he may have committed the murder at that time.
Police wonder if Vince Marinello is actually the vagrant who shot and killed Liz. Police discover Vince has had a FEMA trailer, commonly given by the United States government as temporary housing, assigned to victims of natural disasters. Vince Marinello has had his FEMA unit since Hurricane Katrina hit.
They got a search warrant for his FEMA trailer.
When investigators arrive at the FEMA trailer, a clue from the initial crime scene comes into focus.
A witness had told investigators seeing a white Ford Taurus, a similar car, at the scene of the crime in which an individual was trying to put in a bike.
And Marinello's car reveals gunshot residue.
There's two types of gunshot residue when we're dealing with firearms. The first type is expelled through the front of the gun, through the muzzle of the gun. It's known as muzzle to target gunshot residue. The primer area is initially struck by the firing pin. When that primer is struck, it sends a spark into the powder to detonate the cartridge to fire the bullet down the gun. Well, that primer has certain materials in it that are shock sensitive that are expelled on the rear portion of the gun. They're expelled not only onto the person's hand, but an environment in close proximity to where the individual was fired the gun. When they test for primer gunshot residue, there are three possible conclusions that you can come to if an area or a person is positive for gunshot residue. They are the person fired a gun, the person was in close proximity to another individual who fired a gun, or the person was in an environment where barium, antimony, and lead were present. It's very easy to cross-contaminate an area. If you had gone out shooting and you touched something, it's very easy to transfer it.
And his explanation was, well, I had fired the 9mm. Because when he went to the gun store to buy the bullets, I think he fired it a couple of times. That's the explanation that he gave, that he had fired the weapon before. And he got on his fingers or something, and he got it all over the car.
Investigators search the vehicle and find a box of 9mm cartridges in the glove compartment. They come to the realization that those cartridges are inconsistent with those used to kill Liz Marinello.
Officers enter with a warrant.
When they went to the FEMA trailer, they found the list, and the list was very interesting.
Vince, speaking to the media, took down a list and made notes for everything.
And this list, sitting out in plain sight, is much more interesting than police could ever have imagined.
I go by Jackie. I'm 44 years old. I had 3 kids at the time and single mother. I was working 60 hours a week, still couldn't pay the bills, skipped meals so that they could eat. It's been hard because one thing falls into place, 10 things fall out of place. You know, I just can't do this alone and make it work.
1 in 5 kids face hunger in America, and food costs are rising. But everyone needs nourishing food to thrive, and they can when we work together so our neighbors can feed their families. Call or go online right now to join Feeding America with your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Together, thanks to a nationwide network of food banks, dedicated volunteers, and the monthly support of people like you, we can fill plates with nutritious food for kids facing hunger this summer.
One day my mother came over to my house and said, "There's a meeting at the pantry." I said, "Okay." And I went. There were some ladies in there. They were from the food bank. They asked several questions. Some of those were about me and my story, but it helped me to open up a little bit.
We're getting closer to the day when no one in America faces hunger, but we can't do it without you. Call or go online now. Visit helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day. 98% of donations go directly to help millions of children facing hunger from coast to coast and in your own community. And when you give by credit card, we'll send you this exclusive canvas grocery bag to show you are a part of a movement of supporters working together to help end hunger.
I have people that I can trust. I have hope.
Please call now or make your monthly donation at helpfeedingamerica.org. Working together, we can end hunger in America.
Spot Pet insurance plans help pet parents focus on the moments that matter and worry less about unexpected vet bills. From puppyhood and beyond, Spot can cover up to 90% of eligible vet visits. Visit spotpet.com to get a free quote.
I need Q1 full index reports by desk by noon, complete with comprehensive data. Are you getting any of this? Charles.
Yep, Honors got the meeting notes. I'll ask it for action items in the channel. And Maria already asked for a budget reminder. Smart.
On by morning. Got it?
Got it, boss. Otter, you got this.
At DriveTime.com, we've been hard at work. And we finally did it.
Did you make it so I can finally see my real payments and shop at thousands of cars with no hit to my credit?
Wait, yes! You can go to DriveTime.com and get approved with no credit hit!
Shop for cars and customize your own payments with no credit hit.
Look, there's a slidey thingy. I'm changing my own payments. I feel strong!
Shop for cars with no credit hit.
Grandma, they did it! DriveTime finally did it!
Shop for cars online with no credit hit at DriveTime.com.
They were gunned down.
This is a Stone Cold Killer.
Now, determined detectives will have to trace the ballistics to track down their shooter.
We are all hands on deck.
Targeted for murder. Next on True Crime Network.
There is plenty of mutual acrimony and an impending divorce between Vince and Liz Marinello when she is shot to death by what appears to be a vagrant. A gun shop sales clerk informs detectives that he sells Vince Marinello the kind of bullets Liz is shot to death with.
And when police compare footage of the vagrant with footage of Vince, they have cause to wonder whether Vince killed his wife in disguise.
They obtain a warrant and conduct a search of his trailer.
When they went to the FEMA trailer, they found the list.
Vince Marinello writes 2 pages of what investigators refer to as a to-do list for himself.
Vince was a meticulous note-taker, being in the media for so long.
The list includes what to wear: mustache, black tennis shoes, gloves, and how to dispose of evidence. Bike, paint, clothes, burn, gun, river on the way to mama.
On the second page, there is a map of the parking lot where Liz Marinello is shot.
Vince Marinello had written down on the list, contact Harry Lee, who was the sheriff. Now, why would you want to contact Harry Lee? And it was very planned out, very methodical.
Detectives believe this to-do list is as good as a confession.
And then when they started investigating Marinello, they found out that he went to a costume shop and he wanted to buy a mustache. And they asked him, "Do you want a beard?" "No, I already have one."
Police believe this is enough evidence to arrest Vince Marinello for murder.
They thought it was a homeless man, but then they put 2 and 2 together when they thought, they found out all these places that he went. Finally, they believed they had a really strong, viable suspect in Vince Marinello.
On September 7th, 2006, 69-year-old Vince Marinello surrenders to authorities and is booked into the Jefferson Parish Jail in Gretna on second-degree murder charges. News of this very public figure's arrest makes a huge media splash. Astonished friends and fans reel as the details of the case become known.
And people were stunned because they thought, hey, this was just a guy that people kind of laughed at a little bit, just doing the sports. And then all of a sudden, wow, he's being arrested for murder. He was in jail on a suicide watch for a while because they had a bail hearing coming up. So he was trying to figure out who he was going to call to get the bail money.
But his friends are unwilling to put up their homes to make bail for Vince Marinello.
And Marinello was mad about that. He's very bitter about that. He said, if my friend had committed it, I don't care who he was, if he was the Pope, I would have put up my house and things. But I think at that point, a lot of people were just not convinced that he was innocent.
As the case goes to trial, Marinello's attorneys request a change of venue due to the publicity surrounding the case.
There was no way Vince Marinello was going to get a fair trial in Jefferson Parish.
The request is granted.
So the incident took place in Jefferson Parish. However, the trial actually took place in Lafayette, Louisiana. Lafayette is in the heart of Cajun country. Vince had some attorneys who were helping him free of charge before then. But once Vince was indicted, the case was too big to handle for free. He had no money at the time. He simply had no money, like a lot of people find themselves at some stage in their lives. And he qualified for our services. The court appointed the public defender's office, and we took the case. This was one of the most media-intensive cases I've ever handled. The media was present at every court hearing, every status hearing. If we were walking to the courthouse to pick up an extra police report, there were 3 reporters out there. Media scrutiny was all over this case. It was on the news every night.
Defense say the crime can't be proved because the CCTV footage doesn't depict Vince's face. The prosecution vows that by the end of the trial, quote, there will be no doubt in your mind that he is the one who committed this crime. But it's anyone's guess how the trial will go.
They connected him to the weapon, but they couldn't find the weapon. But they found a lot of circumstantial things there that really brought the case full circle.
Without having the firearm to definitively say that those bullets came from that gun, and then to tie that firearm back to the individual, the suspect, is very difficult.
With circumstantial evidence, with no murder weapon, can the prosecution make the case against Vince Marinello stick?
If you would help that animal, then this is that moment. Because there is an animal suffering right now, waiting for help. And we simply can't get to them without more support from people like you. But helping is easier than you ever imagined. Just visit this website, call this number, or scan this code. Sign up with your monthly gift to the ASPCA, and you can proudly say you've helped rescue innocent animals with your support today. It's just 63 cents a day to help us reach more animals who've been terribly abused or neglected. We know if you saw an animal suffering, you'd do whatever you can to help. So do it now. Go online, call, or scan the code on your screen. Sign up in the next 10 minutes, and we'll send you this welcome kit with this t-shirt you can proudly wear. And now that you know how easy it is, would you help that animal today? Please don't wait. Go online, call, or scan now.
The issue of animal cruelty and animal suffering across this country is an enormous issue. It's easy sometimes to kind of disassociate with something that's not right in front of you. Our commercials are showing footage, and it's often a softened version of what is actually occurring in these situations. We see dogs carrying chains heavier than their own body weight. And this is how this dog lives its entire life. Basically a circle. This is its whole existence. We have found dogs with no protection from the elements, to be without shelter, without adequate water. Sometimes they're just left to languish until they die.
And that's why we need your support more urgently than ever. So go online, call, or scan this code to save an animal who's suffering.
When I think about the suffering that I see, it's all terrible. It is so much more common than people think.
And so much worse. But today, you can take one simple action to save an animal's life. Just scan this code, or you can visit our website or call this toll-free number and sign up with your $19 monthly gift. You will save lives. That's our promise. Do it in the next 5 minutes, and we'll send you this exclusive t-shirt and welcome kit.
If you are there in person and you see what we're seeing and you hear the cries and the whimpering, and you feel the fear, I think most people would be as outraged as I am.
Please hear their cries. Listen to your heart and help them. Go online, call, or scan now.
Vince Marinello goes to trial for the brutal shooting murder of his wife, Liz Marinello. There are similarities between Vince's physicality and that of the footage of the killer vagrant, and what appears to be a murder, quote, to-do list found in Vince's trailer. But defense argues that all of the prosecution's evidence is purely circumstantial, and Vince is an innocent man.
They didn't have the weapon, so they couldn't really match him to the weapon. Like I said, there was a lot of circumstantial evidence that put him at the scene of the crime.
Defense argues that it cannot be determined when the so-called checklist is written. There are alternate ways to interpret it that may not necessarily refer to murder.
He knew he was a suspect as a spouse of the person that was killed, and he had plans to go meet with the sheriff, and he created a list for things that he wanted to talk to the sheriff about. Some of the things on the list to talk to Sheriff Lee about coincided with the murder of Liz Marinello. Some had nothing to do with the case whatsoever. And the prosecutors pointed to the jury that the things that related to the murder of Elizabeth. We pointed to the things that had nothing to do with the murder whatsoever.
Vince's lawyer questions whether Vince actually purchases a disguise to dress as the vagrant, since Vince wore hairpieces regularly and was known to frequent hair shops. It is a strong defense, but the tide begins to turn against Vince Marinello.
The district attorney played the two surveillance tapes side by side to try to show that that was the same person.
A former handyman of Marinello's takes the stand, who has a conversation with Vince one day at the Marinello's home before the murder.
Marinello asks, "Can I put a silencer on a 38? And he thought that kind of strange when he asked him that.
The handyman testifies that Vince shows him a revolver which matches the murder weapon.
The white car found at the FEMA trailer is a ringer for the one spotted near the crime scene.
He was seen putting the bicycle in his trunk by a teacher at a school that was down the street.
Testimony from the counselor reports that Vince knows of his estranged wife's standing appointment at the office building between 3 and 3:50 p.m. on Thursdays. Knowing the time Liz is to exit the building can explain why the perpetrator locates to the area near to where Liz is shot with perfect timing.
Vince was very well respected and well liked, and he really was. Vince had a lot of friends, knew everybody all over town.
But his comrades start to jump ship. Vince's alibi is blown when his friends of over 25 years admit that Vince, in fact, arrives later to their home than they initially report on the evening of the murder.
The alibi was falling apart.
When Vince is informed of Liz's shooting, he admits that he makes no attempts to contact the hospital or check on Liz Marinello's daughter, his stepchild. But Vince's cell phone records become key.
It was quite devastating to us, to be honest. This was the first case in Jefferson Parish in which cell phone records were used in a criminal case. They are routinely used in every serious case now, but this was the first one back in 2008. They were able to ping off of towers, and the prosecution tried to show that through Vince's cell phone records, that his timeline and his statement to the police did not add up to where the cell phone records suggested he probably was at that time.
What I think really clinched it for the jury, and what prosecuting attorneys always hope for, is that the defendant will testify.
Vince takes the stand.
And when he got up there, it was very arrogant, it was very nonchalant, not a lot of emotion. But I think he wanted the attention, no matter if it was negative or positive here. He was bragging about his hotel room, how he had a microwave, he had access to a jacuzzi. You're on trial for your life here, and you're bragging about this. You know, I'm not going to say it was public opinion. I think the evidence strongly pointed to him being the murderer.
It turns out the physical fight between Liz and Vince that he reports to police actually happens because Vince has pinned Liz's daughter to the wall, and Liz has to fight him to get him off.
Assistant district attorneys later described Marinello as a narcissistic, egotistical, self-centered person. The jury did not deliberate for long before they came back with a verdict.
On December 13th, 2008, after a 2-week trial, the jury makes their judgment.
Vince was ultimately convicted as charged, convicted of second-degree murder, which in Louisiana is a mandatory life sentence. It was sentenced to life without parole.
The jury needs only 90 minutes of deliberation.
Back then, a typical jury in Louisiana would take about 2 hours to reach a verdict.
But some believe the sentence does not reflect the crime.
He knew exactly what he wanted to do. He had a map, bought the bullets, bought the disguise. And to me, that was premeditated, but he got second-degree murder. People got to see who he really was. The family really chastised him at the sentencing hearing. He didn't show any remorse whatsoever at all.
I would say self-worth the most detrimental. They did under his credibility with the jury.
And this particular case, the evidence being those nylon-coated bullets not only were sold by a specific gun store, but they were in the victim, lend to the fact that the case is unique in that. And it aided in the investigation, I'm sure, for the detectives.
I think he thought that his connections with the police department were going to get him out of this trouble. I believe his motive, and a few other people that I've spoken to, including some of Liz's friends, were that when Liz discovered that he was a bigamist, he didn't want his reputation ruined. And he figured if he got rid of her and they could not find out who did it, then his reputation would stay intact. All this information that Liz had probably would have denigrated his career.
The prosecutors really tried to stress that Vince was concerned that Liz was going to paint him as a bigamist. Vince believed he was divorced at the time he married Liz.
I don't want to see Liz forgotten either, such a sweet person, and to have her life taken away from her like that because Vince Marinello wanted her as a possession. She was a very angelic individual. I think it was his relentless pursuit of her that finally it was by attrition that she went out with him and eventually married. And I think this is one of the very few cases in New Orleans criminal history that the truth was actually, it came out. There was no spin to it or anything like that.
Vince Marinello subsequently appeals his conviction, and it is upheld by the Louisiana Third Circuit Court of Appeals. But the Louisiana Supreme Court declines to hear his appeal. like a throwback to the 1950s, where folks leave their doors unlocked and simple church-going values are preserved in time. But everything eventually comes to an end. A handsome new pastor joins the church, and a threatening stranger drops in. When a parish erupts in passions, the commandment that's forgotten is, "Thou shalt not kill." Bucks County, Pennsylvania. In 1743, colonists incorporate their settlements into Springfield Township, named for its abundance of hills, meadows, and springs. The growing agricultural economy produces schools, mills, churches, and general stores built to serve the population.
Springfield Township was a rural area of Bucks County that, a lot of historic inns, covered bridges.
A sense of history is ever present, as those who die in the Revolutionary War of 1777 lie deep beneath where the people of today walk. Springfield Township fails to expand like other nearby communities.
When Interstate 78 opened, there were a lot of people who thought that, people who would be commuting to New York City or Philadelphia or whatever, that it would lose a little bit of its rural charm. But it really didn't. Other neighboring municipalities started seeing more like residential subdivisions, things like that. But Springfield Township remained like a very quiet, kind of rural country community.
In a bucolic area of Bucks County, which is a throwback to the 1950s, because people leave their doors unlocked, they have their screen doors open.
The Trinity Evangelical Lutheran Church congregation has been worshiping regularly in this building since 1763.
But Springfield Township remained like a very quiet, kind of rural country community. And the church was a big part, kind of a focal point of that community for the congregants.
It's about 12:30 p.m. on Wednesday, the 23rd of January, 2008, when the parish sexton, who is in charge of the maintenance of the church buildings and graveyard, heads for the church office.
The sexton of the church had arrived that day to clean the church, which is something that she normally does, and found that the door was unlocked. Normally, during that time, the door is always locked, but she found that it wasn't. Her first instinct was, whoever did this, I'm going to give them a piece of my mind. They left the door unlocked.
But then she notices something strange on the floor.
There was a pool of blood on the floor. She couldn't tell right away who was injured because all she could see was her hair in this pool of blood, just kind of floating in different directions.
The sexton runs to call 911. The police and ambulance are summoned. Very little is known, except that a woman is bleeding profusely from her head.
Someone was shot in the church.
When emergency responders arrived, they discovered that the woman shot was Rhonda Smith.
And she still has a pulse.
She found her alive. Still alive when she was found.
So for something like this to happen, it's so out of the ordinary that it's horrifying to the residents of Springfield Township.
So they rushed her to the hospital.
She was transported to the hospital. She was still alive, barely.
The victim is identified as Rhonda Smith, who works in the Bucks County Lutheran Church office.
Nobody had any reason to believe that Rhonda Smith had any enemies.
For the last year, this 42-year-old is an active member of the Trinity Evangelical Lutheran Church. She gets involved by singing in the choir and volunteering in the office. Rhonda has been dealing with mental health issues since her 20s. The churchgoers look after Rhonda and sometimes take up an informal collection to help out. Rhonda is open about her mental illness and has plans to write a book about her struggles.
People in the church community were embracing Rhonda. They were providing friendship, sometimes financial help, certainly spiritual assistance. Because Rhonda had her own issues, she was bipolar, they provided her with essentially a caring community.
Rhonda is not the only one who is fairly new to Trinity Evangelical Lutheran Church. Handsome and athletic, Gregory Shreves is a successful athlete in the 1970s who comes to follow a new calling in the latter part of his life.
He had previously been a golf pro. Becoming a pastor was kind of a career change for him. He really wanted nothing more than to be a pastor of a quiet country church. And, you know, by all accounts, he just wanted to kind of live a fairly uneventful life as the pastor of this small church with a community that he could really embrace.
Greg Shreves gets through the seminary in about half the time it normally takes, and a Bible takes the place of golf clubs. Shreves takes his time to find the right place to settle, but when he finds Trinity Evangelical, the connection is clear. He becomes a minister and starts working at Trinity in April 2005, his first pastoral job in a charming historical setting, complete with his own private clergy house.
He lived in a house right next to the church.
Pastor Shreves thrives in his new calling. He loves dealing with people and the joys and the sorrows of their lives. Inevitably, women respond to the handsome bachelor pastor with innocent crushes. But there is no sign that Reverend Greg Shreves is anything but upright and honorable. For Rhonda Smith, the pastor is a lifeline. He is known for having a good way with people. And Rhonda, who is unattached and without children, finds support and solace within the congregation.
The pastor was happy to be able to help in some way by giving her some money in exchange for her doing some work.
Pastor Shreves approaches Rhonda Smith about a job. Rhonda's thrilled to work and appreciates the opportunity to learn. In church that Sunday, Rhonda surprises parishioners by publicly thanking them for their emotional and financial support in a moving address that leaves many parishioners with tears in their eyes. No one can imagine that Rhonda would be shot point blank in her beloved church. As the congregation prays for Rhonda Smith to survive, the police work fast to find the perpetrator. It's a time of crisis, and a strong presence at the helm is needed. The congregation and police all want to know the same thing. Who would want Rhonda dead?
There has never been a better time to join AARP. This special offer gives you exclusive access to hundreds of AARP discounts, programs, and services that will add real value to your life. As a member, you can get discounts on glasses and eye exams, save on prescription drugs not covered by Medicare, but you can also save on travel, hotels, restaurants, concert tickets, and so much more. I didn't know that. AARP helps members access exclusive benefits like Medicare supplement insurance, even auto insurance. We can use that. AARP offers financial tips, career resources, and tools that may help you avoid identity theft and scammers. That's good to know.
Pick up the phone now to join AARP. 1 year for just $12. That's 25% off the regular membership price. You'll even get a second membership included free. And you'll receive AARP the magazine filled with information and articles important to you. Plus, you'll get hundreds of benefits and an additional free gift if you call now.
And you don't have to be retired to join AARP. You can join at 50 for instant access to many member benefits. For 60 years, AARP has fought to protect your Social Security, Medicare, and more. That sounds good to me. Now you know how AARP helps people like us take on today. So don't miss your chance to join now.
Call or go online now to take advantage of this special offer. 1 year for just $12. That's a savings of 25% off the regular membership price. And you'll get a second AARP membership for anyone in your home free. And get a full year subscription to AARP the magazine filled with information and articles important to you. Plus, you get the AARP mobile app that connects you to local events and activities near you. And as a free gift, we'll include this insulated trunk organizer. So don't miss this chance to save 25% and get 1 year for just $12.
Call 800-400-9312.
Drive Time has a big announcement. An even easier way to buy a car. You make the deal yourself.
I made the deal myself.
It lets you customize the real down payment and monthly payment of the car you want to buy.
It's the Drive Time Real Deal Maker.
Get the real deal at drivetime.com.
Hey, what's up? It's the People Shark here, Damon John. I'm going to give you a tip that I have never shared with anyone. This tip is about how to create the wow factor in your home. Every person that comes into my home comments about how amazing it smells. It's all thanks to Aroma 360 scent diffuser. We feel like we live in a luxurious hotel every day.
And I love how evenly it sets our space.
I highly recommend that you go directly to aroma360.com and get yours today.
Thanks to Reverie, vaginal dryness doesn't get between us anymore.
6 across 7 letters?
It's hormone-free. There's no messy applicator, so it fits our routine. Reverie.
Thousands of women have restored their vaginal moisture. Join them at Reverie.com.
They're thinking about their next adventure. You're thinking about their next vet visit. An ASPCA pet health insurance plan helps you afford the care they need. So while they're out living their best life, you can help make sure it's a long one.
The future. The way you see it is said to depend on where you sit. At XChair, we think it also gets down to how you sit, which is why our technology is light years ahead. With our groundbreaking Elemax technology, bringing hot, cold, and touch into one extraordinary seating experience. At XChair, we've got our eye on the future of work, so you can focus on the present. Bring home extra comfort during our big July 4th sale. Get up to $400 off with Elemax and FS locking wheels included. Deals end soon.
Watch this. It's all 100% real. Witness what happens to this woman's bags under her eyes in an actual time lapse in just minutes. Nothing has been doctored or tampered with. The very real problem will disappear before your eyes and hers with a revolutionary topical formulation that works in just minutes, and the effects will last for hours and hours. Over 1 million people are using this topical technique to visually reduce puffiness and bags. It works on sagging jowls, even fine lines and wrinkles on the face and forehead. Introducing Plexiderm. In just minutes, you can restore and beautify your face, even look years younger. And the look will last all day or all evening.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I'm just in love with the mirror right now.
Jump on board and say yes to this amazing $14.95 Prove It Plexiderm trial. You'll see why our customers describe Plexiderm with 3 words. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Order right now. We'll pay your shipping. Operators are standing by.
Springfield's Trinity Evangelical Lutheran Church congregation worships regularly in this building and have since before there was a United States of America. Small town values are at the town's core. No one expects a horrific assault in Springfield's historic church. Rhonda Smith is found bleeding from the head and barely alive in the church office. She is rushed to the hospital. Panic radiates out from Trinity Evangelical as police must ascertain whether the public are at risk. Authorities learn that the church's magnetic pastor, Shreves, is away on an official getaway.
At the time of the shooting, he was at a retreat for pastors.
An elementary school about half a mile down the road goes into lockdown. The kids are not allowed to go outside for recess. Anyone could be at risk from an attacker on the loose. Authorities examine the church office where Rhonda is discovered to see if there are any clues as to what might have motivated this brutal ambush. At the hospital, the shocking news of Rhonda's injury is revealed.
She'd been shot twice in the head, so they rushed her to the hospital. but they found essentially that she was brain dead and with very little, if any, chance of recovery.
Rhonda's family is summoned to her bedside.
So her parents, Jim and Dorothy Smith, who came to the hospital, had to make the just incredibly difficult decision to take her off of life support.
Rhonda Smith dies. Pastor Shreves returns to his parish to find his formerly sedate flock in a state of fear and chaos.
He got the call that this had happened, and he came back.
Police immediately notice that he's a handsome man and clearly adored by the congregation.
No one had any idea who might have done this, who might have had a problem with Rhonda Smith. It's not as if she had any enemies that anyone knew of. The first reaction among the church community was, this must be an outsider.
The pastor and other members of the church tell police that a visitor attends church service at Trinity Evangelical.
Members of the church were recalling a stranger who had come to a church service a few, weeks prior, who was disheveled, dirty.
He tells 3 different people that he's come from 3 different states.
They'd never seen him before. He was acting suspicious. He would make remarks like, oh, this would be a great church to rob. At one point, he actually tried to take a communion cup from the church and was kind of caught in the act, and they said, oh, we don't do that kind of thing here.
It is a bizarre incident that is completely foreign to this peaceful church.
So some people were wondering, could it have been him? Some people were speculating that it was a robbery, that they thought that the church would be empty. They found Rhonda Smith there, shot her, and ran off.
And all the congregation fear, if the stranger kills once, will he come back for more? The pastor is forced to wonder, is he now at risk?
He was afraid. There was a murder at this church right next to his house. He had concerns that whoever did it might come back and hurt him or try to kill him. And he was also dealing with the feelings that the congregation were going through, trying to kind of guide them through it while also, dealing with his own feelings about what had happened. So nobody really knew what happened, but most people were not considering that this could have been a member of the church or someone from the community.
As the parish anxiously awaits the results of the autopsy, police hear a rumor whispered in the small community that Rhonda Smith has a married lover. Police speculate that she may have been in a relationship with a man who pushed to hide it, and when he could no longer, wanted to see Rhonda dead. Or the murder could be fueled by a jealous wife. But is this a lead or only small-town gossip? Police talk to Rhonda's parents and hear about her various romantic attachments and her bipolar disorder. An unlikely theory surfaces.
So in early stages of the investigation, the police did not rule out that it could have been a suicide.
Although there is no gun at the scene, they can't rule anything out.
And, there was some speculation that maybe she killed herself in the church with the assistance of someone and that person disposed of the gun. Or that someone found her and got rid of the gun because they didn't want it to be seen as a suicide because of the stigma associated with suicide.
Because Rhonda's parents are nearby the church when Rhonda is shot, the police theorize that they cover up their daughter's suicide.
And therefore they came upon the scene and they took the gun and disposed of the gun themselves.
But the police are divided.
The investigators actually had disagreements as to whether or not it was a suicide or homicide.
Rhonda's father is adamant that they have no part in a cover-up and that Rhonda did not commit suicide.
And he was very insistent to the police that she did not do this. Someone killed her. She did not do it.
But if it's not a suicide, who would have shot Rhonda Smith? Authorities bring their questions to Pastor Shreves, the man who appears to have had a close relationship with Rhonda Smith.
Came back to the pastor, part of their investigation, and were asking him, is there anything unusual from your conversations with the congregation or anything from the past couple of weeks or months that comes to mind? Anything that it might not have struck you at the time, but it could mean a lot for our investigation. And as soon as they asked that, they could tell there was something on the pastor's mind, but he was reluctant to kind of say. And finally he said, well, there is one member of the congregation who's been acting kind of unusual.
The pastor hesitantly admits that there are some odd elements at play in the congregation. What he's about to disclose will rip the roof off this picture-perfect county parsonage.
We all know that words have power. They set things in motion
and make us happy or sad.
But there's one word that stands out because when people say it, lives are changed.
It's not a big word.
It's itsy bitsy.
It's only 3 little letters.
But when you say it,
the life of a kid like me can be changed.
So, what is this special word?
It may surprise you.
It's yes.
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 Yes to becoming a monthly supporter of Shriners Hospitals for Children.
That's right. Your monthly support allows the doctors and nurses at Shriners Hospitals for Children to give the most amazing care anywhere and change the lives of kids like me.
And me. And me.
Because people like you have said yes. Now I can play football.
And I can play catch.
And I can walk.
So what do you say? Will you say yes right now?
It's so easy.
All you have to do is pick up the phone or go to loveshriners.org right now and say yes. When you say yes to giving just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a reminder of all the kids you're helping every day. My life is filled with possibility because of the monthly support of people just like you who called the number on your screen and said yes.
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 Your yes is making a difference in my life and the lives of so many other kids like me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving.
Please call or go online now. If operators are busy, call again or go to loveshriners.org to say yes right away.
Dogs are expensive. My number one pet parent hack, Spot Pet Insurance.
Spot made it so painless and easy for me. They reimbursed me $2,700.
I'm here to tell you, consider getting pet insurance.
For years, I was using makeup that would cake or crease in my wrinkles. And ultimately, I did not like the way it looked. So I created the perfect kit of makeup for mature skin. I call it Daily Routine. Daily Routine comes with our signature Balance and Brighten foundation, our Marbleized blush, our Natural Glow highlighter, and of course, our favorite Kabuki brush. Daily Routine gives you a natural-looking coverage and a beautifully fresh look. Learn more about Daily Routine at laurageller.com.
Your wallet is always in danger. Criminals can scan and hack your information without you even knowing. Worse yet, it's bulky and so disorganized. But not anymore, because Slim is in. Introducing SlimMint, an ultra-thin RFID blocking wallet that keeps your cards and cash truly protected. And now may be your last chance to get it for a low price. SlimMint uses the latest RFID blocking technology to prevent thieves from scanning your wallet and stealing your info.
Having your information stolen is a nightmare, but with SlimMint, I know I'm protected.
With money clips, cash can easily fall out, but with the auto-locking SlimMint, your cards and money stay securely in place. Then just press the button to release the lock. SlimMint is ergonomically designed to optimize space and keep your belongings organized. It has a built-in cash clip and a flexible outer band to securely fit your additional cards and your extra cash. Even with everything you see here in the SlimMint, it's still ultra-thin. Bulky wallets are uncomfortable, but the SlimMint is so compact it fits in any size pocket. Plus, it keeps everything easy to access.
SlimMint holds everything, from pictures to credit cards, my driver's license. Yeah, it's still so thin.
Say bye-bye to bent cards and damaged magnetic strips. SlimMint keeps them protected. It's crush-resistant and can really take a beating. Similar wallets sell for over $100. But call or click now and get SlimMint for just $29.99. Order in the next 5 minutes and you'll get an instant $10 discount. So it's only $19.99. But wait, due to rising costs and supply chain shortages, this may be your last chance to get SlimMint at this low price. place. There's a strict limit of 3 Slim Mint wallets while supplies last. You still have time to get your very own Slim Mint wallets, but you must act fast. Don't wait. Order now.
Call 1-800-618-5190. That's 1-800-618-5190. Call or visit slimmintwallet.com. So call 1-800-618-5190 now.
Tell me what you want from this.
I want to be a star.
I want to be known.
I'd like to be able to grieve.
This is a moment I've been waiting for.
Who knows where it will lead?
I promise you, I'll not let you down. If I were you, love, I'd start talking.
Coming up next on True Crime Network.
Rhonda Smith, church administrator, is found bleeding in the church office. She's later pronounced brain dead and taken off life support by her parents. Rhonda has bipolar disorder, and although no weapon is found at the scene, authorities speculate as to whether this is a suicide that is covered up by her parents. As rumors of menacing strangers and affairs swirl, the Springfield community that once felt safe suspects that a killer is on the loose. And no one, not even the parish priest, knows what to believe anymore. The autopsy results come in, and what's revealed is almost inconceivable to the good people of this county parish.
She'd been shot twice in the head.
The forensic examiner who conducted the autopsy, she found what's called stippling on Rhonda Smith's hand, the outside of the hand, which led her to believe that Rhonda Smith put her hand up in order to protect herself.
Stippling is the burn off of the powder that etches on skin or anything soft at close distances. The bullet is pushed through the firearm from the propellant, being the gunpowder, and it's the burn off of the powder. What happens is when it's at close distances, it doesn't have enough time to burn.
Rhonda Smith's death becomes a murder investigation.
If the victim killed herself, she would have put the gun closer to her face or to her head, and there would have been a substantial amount of stippling.
Residents of Springfield have their illusions of safety destroyed.
It's a very rural area, and it's an area that crime doesn't happen in.
The threatening stranger seems like the only possibility. He returns to rob the church, as he threatened, but finds Rhonda there by chance and shoots her. Authorities try to trace him. But the stranger seems to disappear as mysteriously as he arrives.
The police were conducting their investigation, starting first close to the victim, Rhonda, in terms of people who she knew, people who she may have dated at the time or in the past. And then they started branching out as all those potential people of interest had alibis and could not have possibly committed this.
Police return to the facts that the crime scene communicates.
Now, in this case, it showed us that this was not a robbery. Everything was in place. Nothing was stolen. But we were able to see that the first shot that grazed off of Rhonda Smith's forehead did not penetrate her body. It just grazed her forehead and instead lodged in the window frame behind the desk. The second shot was a contact wound to the side of her head. And those two pieces of evidence were able to lead us to conclude what kind of a revolver was involved in the shooting. But we didn't have the gun.
And the question of motive remains unanswered. Church members fear for their own safety. The investigation is stalling. Pastor Shreves is encouraged by police to talk.
They could tell that there was something on the pastor's mind that he was reluctant to discuss.
Pastor Shreves recounts a situation to the police that has nothing to do with Rhonda.
Finally, he did say, well, there's one member of the congregation who's been acting a little strange.
police talked to the pastor and then started finding out about some of the uniqueness about Mary Jane Fonda.
The pastor tells investigators about Mary Jane Fonda's artistic talents and how he invites her to help decorate the church.
Mary Jane Fonda was a very talented artist. In fact, the church has a beautiful painting of the church by Mary Jane Fonda that used to hang in one of the rooms in the church.
But she says something to him that bewilders him.
Mary Jane Fonda said to Pastor Shreves, "You can't deny what's going on between us." And that was when Pastor Shreves realized, oh, Mary Jane Fonda has developed a romantic interest in me. And he just kind of stopped the conversation. He said, "Mary Jane, this is not appropriate. I'm your pastor. I don't have feelings for you in that way."
But the situation doesn't end there.
She was leaving him long, rambling messages that were sometimes 10 minutes long, sometimes longer. She left messages that were so long that the tape on the answering machine would cut out. And then she would call back and start a new message and say, "Oh, I got cut off." But, increasingly it was getting kind of out of hand.
The pastor asks Mary Jane Fonda to stop leaving him messages.
Mary Jane continued to leave these messages for him. She started buying groceries for him and leaving them in the refrigerator at the rectory for him. And when he said, "Mary Jane, are you buying food for me? Like, you can't do that. You really need to stop."
She had strong feelings for the pastor at the time in terms of taking care of him.
The pastor takes steps to block her behavior.
He even started locking the rectory door so she couldn't do that anymore.
But Mary Jane won't give up.
And she would just leave the groceries on the front porch. And to make a point, he kind of just left them there one day and they spoiled.
But Mary Jane has also shown great support to Rhonda Smith's family.
She purchased an angel statue in memory of Rhonda Smith for the church, something for them to keep at the church in her memory. At one point, she baked a pie, which she gave to Dorothy and Jim Smith, to Rhonda's parents.
And when Mary Jane brings them the pie, Rhonda Smith's mother, Dorothy, is kind to Mary Jane.
Dorothy noticed that her shoes were ratty and said, "Oh, do you need new shoes? I have a pair of Rhonda's shoes that I can give you." And she gave Mary Jane some of Rhonda Smith's old shoes.
And as a result of those conversations, the police started honing in on Mary Jane Fonda.
They came to speak to her at the church, and like everyone else, they found that she just kind of talked incessantly and kind of rambled on, and they got the impression that Mary Jane felt she was kind of being given the short end of the stick and that Rhonda Smith was getting more attention from the church.
Police also learned about Mary Jane Fonda's living situation.
She had lived there with her brother in a home not that far from the church. She was a hoarder, as was her brother. Their house had stacks and stacks of just stuff and junk.
Police asked Mary Jane for an alibi at the time of the murder.
She had said that she had gotten a hair appointment that morning. She told the police, "I left my house at 5 minutes to 11. And they found that suspicious because 5 to 11 is exactly when they believe Rhonda Smith was killed, because that's when the internet activity in the office stopped.
Police follow up with the hair salon.
Normally when she gets a hair appointment, she removes the wig and lets them do her hair, then puts the wig back on and leaves.
And then, as it turns out, she left in such a rush that she forgot her wig.
The wig is tested for gunpowder residue.
However, it didn't meet all the criteria, so the expert could not come in and say that the wig had gunpowder residue. But we knew we were on the right track.
The police interview Mary Jane, and she talks for hours.
She is a tangential thinker, which means that when she's talking to you about something, she can go on and on tangentially about whatever the question was that she was originally asked.
During their questioning of Mary Jane Fonda, police asked her, "Do you own a gun?" And they already knew from her records that she did. And she said, yes, I own a .38 Rossi, a revolver.
I was having problems working for the car bringing down the road, that type of thing. And anybody working late at night, along 10 miles of back road to go home. He felt that anyone, and there were my physicians working late at night, I would have a gun. Anyhow, the idea of the gun, my father knew I had a gun. I told him that somebody I'd use a gun. Suggested, well, go ahead, Fishy, go ahead. So I did it.
It's known as an inexpensive type of revolver. It performed well, but it was inexpensive, readily available, and there was a lot of them sold.
And the police knew that a .38 Rossi could potentially have been the gun that was used to kill Rhonda Smith, but until they had it, they couldn't say for sure. So they asked Mary Jane, do you still have that gun? And she said, no, I threw that gun away years ago. I threw it away back in 1994.
And the reason she throws it away is intriguing.
After her father's disappearance, she got rid of the gun because she thought it was not a good thing to have.
I took it, and I don't know, I never told why I threw it. Over like Dr. Nixon, over the bridge that's over 563.
Police conduct a search in the area Mary Jane indicates.
We had diving teams go out and scour Lake Nakamixon for the gun.
They did sort of some quick searches around that area, didn't find anything. So they believe that Mary Jane still had the gun.
But police lack sufficient evidence to get a search warrant or make an arrest. And that's when an amazing coincidence occurs.
Fortunately, on a Saturday afternoon, a father and son went fishing in Lake Nakamixon in Upper Bucks County.
An 8-year-old boy fishing with his father alongside Lake Nakamixon, and the boy saw a bird. He saw a great blue heron, and he wanted to get a little closer to take a look at it. So he was kind of walking along the side of the river when he saw something shining.
He took his sweatshirt, covered his hands, and picked up what turned out to be a gun. And he presented it to his father, and his father couldn't believe that his son had retrieved a gun.
They contact police, and the gun is sent to the State Police Crime Laboratory for analysis.
And before you know it, there's a hit on that gun as matching the bullets that were found on scene of the murder.
But Mary Jane's story doesn't add up. She states to police she threw the gun in the lake years before.
We were able to get an expert to analyze the gun to say that there was no way that that gun was in Lake Nakamixon for so many years because it was in pristine condition.
You'd have surface rust. Depending on how long the gun has been in the water, you would have severe rust. You would start have pitting on the inside of the barrel, on the outside. Anything aluminum frame would start to corrode. The steel parts would substantially start to rust.